Hey guys, how's it going? I wanted to put together a quick tutorial that deals with the exercise that you're working with, and particularly um, the drawing overlay that you'll have to do. So there's a few steps with that. One of the steps is that you have to execute the drawing, and the drawing that I'm going to show you isn't necessarily, it's a some trace paper that I had in my office. There's some diagrams on it, but I just wanted to walk you through the steps through once you have a drawing. So this would be a drawing on trace. What are the steps to scan it? What are the things to consider when you scan it? And then I'll also walk through the steps to use the alpha channel in order to cancel out all of the white space or the trace paper space in this case. This is yellow trace paper. In order to just get the line work, export that or save it as a PNG file, and then be able to bring that into your Illustrator overall 11 by 17 layout in order to work with it compositionally. Now, this, as opposed to the images that I talked about, now the images should be something less than 11 by 17, again, to give yourself enough white space to work on the rest of the board. This drawing should be 11 by 17 because the idea is that you had printed the 11 by 17. You can do that in black and white, and then also draw right over that. So it should be a 1-to-1 scale. Now the computer studio, the college computer studio, has an 11 by 17 flatbed scanner. So you should have that available, so that should be fairly quick to get the 1-to-1 ratio for that scale of a drawing to scan. If you have a printer at home, I know the printer that I'm going to be using, it's a little bit smaller, just a little bit bigger than letter size, or 8.5 by 11. So you have to make do with that. You may have to scan it in pieces and then piece that together in Photoshop. But I'm going to assume here for this case that you are using the N11 by 17 flatbed scanner. There'll be a little bit difference in the scale that you see though. Okay, so one of the things that you'll have to consider right away is how to bring it in, how to export and talk to the scanner in order to get the kind of line work that you need. So I'm going to go here to File, and then I'm going to select or just highlight or hover over Import, and in this case I'm going to go to WIA support. So that should be what comes up. There's some that'll refer to a Twain Acquire that works sometimes as well. In this case I'm using an HP printer scanner, so it'll find that. So these options here: open acquired image in Photoshop, yes, I want that. Create unique subfolder using date today, I don't necessarily need that, so I'll unselect that. So I'll say start. Now it's finding available devices. In this case I'm hooked up to this HP PhotoSmart printer, and I will select OK. And now this is the dialog box from HP in order to control the scanner. So I just made that a little bit bigger, and what I'll most likely be doing, I'm going to show you just how to work with some of these settings. And so the settings that you might be working with, there may be some differences in terms of how it looks, but generally the setting should be available to you, and no matter what kind of software you're using for this, whether it's a Dell or whatever. So first I'm just going to go down here and preview the scan. So I'll select preview so I can see what I'm looking at. So now the scanner is doing its work to give me a quick image. So you can see this is a smattering of drawings. There's actually like 3 layers to this. There's one drawing over the other. So ignore the content. It's really just to walk you through the steps to scan your line work or the drawing overlay that's more relative to your composition. Okay, so I can see this is color. I don't necessarily want the color. I could work with the color, but in this case I'm just asking for black line drawings, and it's a little bit more complex then to get in and delete a yellow tone if you wanted to create white space there. So I'm going to work with this as a black and white scan. So one of the things I had mentioned is to try to scan it as a black and white picture or text. So this is for line work, basically. I'll have to go back down here to preview. And the settings don't always work now because there's a lot of tones, different tones in this drawing that I have. It's not as clean as I'd like it. I can go here, adjust the quality of the scanned picture, select that, and play around with some of the settings. Here I can raise the resolution, and you may want to go ahead and just raise that to at least 300. You can always scale that down if it ends up being too big of a file size, but at least you have the information at a larger scale to work with. The brightness, so I can tweak the brightness. You can see this little dialog box is telling me how that might work. Or here, just a little preview. So I want to clean some of that up, and then I can select OK and hit preview again, and we should see this clean up a little bit here. So that's a little bit better. This should probably be enough for your simple line work. So you can kind of tweak with those settings, make sure you're not losing any of the resolution there and some of the clarity of your drawing. Then I can go ahead and select scan. So now it's going to go and walk through, scan that at a higher DPI or 300 dots per inch there, and it's going to automatically open that up in Photoshop. Processing, processing, processing. Here we go. All right, there it is. So it's in the wrong orientation right now, and ignore the scale here. You'll have 11 by 17 when you scan it. This is a little bit smaller again, and keep that in mind. You'll be using that larger scanner. But this is the wrong orientation. I wanted this to be landscape oriented. So I'm going to go into image rotation. And this is a little bit different when you have a layer and you're rotating an object here. Here you're actually rotating the whole canvas. And the canvas in Photoshop is this whole viewable area. So I want to just rotate that whole thing as opposed to an object or an image on the canvas, which you could do separately, and I showed you some of those in the previous tutorial. So I'll go to image rotation, counterclockwise, 90 degrees, and there we have it. Now it brought it in, we have that there. And the reason it's not, I'm trying to double click on this right now, the reason it's not doing that is the mode right now is a bitmap. And so I actually want to convert that to a grayscale. I'll say OK. And now I should be able to double click this and layer 1. Now it didn't bring that in. If I would have just had that bitmap and brought that in to Illustrator, most likely I would have had the transparency. So I'm going to just jump back in my history panel here. So now this is the bitmap, and I can do a save as. BMP would work. Let's see, I'm going to navigate to the right folder, and the working file, I'll save it as a BMP, and just for good measure I will save it, see if I can save it as a PNG, and I will say OK. So then in my Illustrator layout, I should be able to bring that image in, and then you can see it's just the line work. In Photoshop it didn't look like it was clear, but since it's a BMP file, or a bitmap image rather, and a BMP file, it's just giving me the dots here. So if I really zoom in, basically there's dot resolution to this, almost like a newspaper or something. So just that dot information, and I can use that. You shouldn't have to scale it, and it should be 1-to-1 when you bring it in, but in case you do, you can just grab these grips and make sure it's there. Now, I just dragged this in. I didn't know exactly what layer I was on. Luckily, I was on the right layer, line overlay. That's where I want that. So then you can see all the other images or underneath this layer. So if I move this around, you see I can see the images beyond. Just Control Z to put that there. Okay, I'm going to delete that, and just in case you don't get the resolution that you're looking for here in Photoshop, I'm going to walk through the scanning process again. So I'll say import, WIA support, start. Yep, that's the printer I want. Say OK. I can preview it, and it'll come back with that image. So say you had some tonality or a little bit more detail that had more of a gradient to it. Maybe I wanted to keep some of this gradient in the background. I can scan it as a grayscale picture. So that's just going to be white and black and grays as well. And just like the other line work or the black and white picture or text, I can select these extra options to adjust the quality. I can bump up the resolution. I can play around with the brightness and the contrast. You can see this little thumbnail that is telling me kind of how it might come through, and I want to keep some of that grayscale. Say OK. I can preview it to make sure that that's what I'm going to want. It's good. I have some of that tonality there, some of those grayscales, and I can go ahead and scan this. Now, because it's a grayscale picture, it's not going to necessarily come in as a bitmap image. It's going to come in, I believe, as a grayscale. Once it does come in that way, I'll have to convert it. It's either index or grayscale. I'll have to convert it to RGB. So it's still going to look like a grayscale image, but it's actually going to be a combination of, or a mixture of RGB in order to make the image. So it comes in as an index here, and I want to change that. So I go up here to image, mode. So it comes in as an index. I'm going to just change it to RGB. So now I have the background image there. I want to, again, rotate this. So I'll go into image, and again, this is rotating the whole canvas here. So image, rotation, counterclockwise. You can go clockwise, counterclockwise, arbitrary angle, whatever. Counterclockwise is what I want. I'm going to double click this because I want to be able to work with this layer. And then I'm going to walk through the alpha channel tutorial that I did last time, so you can remove all of the white space that's here and just keep the grays here. So I'm going to select my marquee tool or the selection tool, select everything. I'm going to hit Control C for copy. Now that's copied to the clipboard. I believe you could also go to under edit, just hit here, copy, here's the copy and paste and so forth. So now it's copied. I move over here to my layers panel, and I will select the channels, and I'm going to create a new channel, which is right down here with this little dog ear. So that's my alpha channel, and I'm selected on it. And now I'm going to do is paste that image there. So there is the pasted image. And now I want to invert that image, so all the black will be white and vice versa. So I will go to image, adjustment, invert. Okay. Now I can go back to layers, and I'm going to create a new layer. So this will be a layer over that. And I am then going to deselect. Right now there's a selection here, so I want to deselect that. And I'm going to go to select. I'm going to load that alpha channel selection. So load selection. Let's see the document. That's a document we're in. The layer 1 transparency. I actually want my alpha channel. So I'll say OK. And automatically the selection comes in for what it wants to. So it's just a selection area. It's not really colored with anything right now. So now I'm going to zoom in. I'm going to, in this case, hold down my Alt key and use my scrolling wheel to kind of zoom in. And there's a variety of ways you can do that. But this one I kind of like just so I don't deselect this accidentally. Okay, now I'm going to select my paint bucket. Right now my foreground color is black, and that's what I want to work with, so that's the color I'll be using. And get my paint bucket and dump that in there. So now I got a little bit darker, so you're seeing the alpha channeled, white canceled out black line work over the original image. And I can now deselect the selection here, Control D, and I can turn off the previous layer. This is the original layer, and this one is the new layer. I'll turn off the original layer, and now I have just this grayscale, all these nice textures that are there from the line work. Okay, so from here I can now go into File, and I'm just going to do a Save As, and I want to save it as a PNG file. That's the one I tend to use a lot. Probably could use others, but that's the one I tend to go to. Put it in my working here. Image 001, that should be fine, and I'll select Save. That's okay. It might take a little bit for that saving to occur, 54%. Meanwhile, I will move into Illustrator, and I'll show you the difference of those images. So the black and white image text, the earlier bitmapped image versus the image that we just did, which actually has more nuance to it in terms of grayscale. So I'm going to go to my folder, and I have the original BMP file. This is the one we just created. Now my file management is not going well, but and this is the bitmap image we created before. So I can drag that over, and so you can see how it is, and it's a little rough, you know, there's a lot of noise in it, and so it's not quite as smooth perhaps as I would have liked. And so then I'll show you this versus the one we just did with the alpha channel. So it's really nice and soft. We see those grayscaled images or line work. There's a lot more nuance to this image, and I actually prefer this as opposed to the other one. Now if your line work is really stark, I can turn off these other layers so we can really just see the difference of the images. Oops. I'm just holding this down, and right now I could transform this so it would not be proportioned to its original size, but I'll hold my shift key down to maintain the proportions. So right away you can see the difference. This has nice gray tones in it. This one is a little grittier. Perhaps there's an aesthetic and you like that, and as opposed to this, but it's really up to you. Those are two ways, I guess, to do it. But both images will allow then that white space to be canceled out, so we can start layering one image over the other in a pretty effective way. All right, as always, let me know if you have any questions, and I'll be posting this shortly. Thanks, guys. Talk to you soon.